Hello, welcome to this Computer Weekly video. I'm Brian Glick, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Computer Weekly. And in this video, we're going to be talking about productivity. We're going to be talking about technology in the workplace. How many of you can recognise the situation where the technology that you use at home as a consumer is more advanced and easier to use than the technology you use when you get into your workplace? There's any number of surveys and examples of research that show that the type of technology that's available in the workplace affects employee motivation. It's obviously a huge factor in productivity, and increasingly it's a big part of what's coming to be called employee engagement, the way that organisations support and motivate their staff to be as effective as they can in the workplace. Now, to discuss some of the issues that this raises for organisations and for IT departments, I'm joined by Sherif Seddik. Sherif is the Senior Vice President for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Citrix. Sherif, welcome.
Great, thank you very much, Brian. Great to be here.
Thank you for coming along. Now, I've said, it's become quite well known, this sometimes dichotomy between, great, easy to use technology at home and difficult, wait 10 minutes to log in technology and in the workplace. But let's take a step back from the technology and talk first about what are the business reasons that this is becoming such a big issue. This topic of employee experience as it's come to be known. Why so many businesses talking about this?
Yeah, I think, Brian, a couple of things. First of all, it's been like in the last few years, there's been a lot of investment going around customer experience. Companies were very focused on it and lots of money and time has gone into that. In the last couple of years, we've definitely seen this repivoting of focus from customer experience to employee experience. As a matter of fact, we've just done a study jointly with the Economist Intelligence Unit. And the results of that showed that 73% of the respondents said that employee experience is a high or top priority for their organization. And I think there are three main reasons kind of around this. One is many companies have come to the realization that a great employee experience is an absolute necessity for a customer experience. At the end of the day, if you are at a customer and you're working with great technology, but the employee that you are working with, a representative of the company you're dealing with, is not equipped with that, then it becomes a poor customer experience. So that's one. The second thing is the so-called what we're calling the productivity gap. So in the last few years, research after research shows that there is a big gap between the increase in spend on technology and the increase in employee productivity as a result. And that is coming from lowering levels of employee engagement. As a matter of fact, the most recent Gallup Status of the Workforce report showed that as much as 85% of employees are disengaged at work. 20% of those are actively disengaged, which means they are looking for another job. So if you think of this and you think of any asset that you have that's operating at 15% capacity, it's a big burden. As a matter of fact, the same report said that the employee disengagement is costing the global economy something like $7 trillion a year. So that's the other factor, is how do we get our employees to become more engaged to address that. And the third and final thing is talent attraction and retention. If you talk to any CEO today, talent attraction and retention is one of the top three. And as you said, technology becomes a huge factor that, today, many of the employees or potential employees that they interview actually actively ask, what is the technology that you will provide? Am I allowed to bring my own device? What kind of applications, etc. And it's becoming tougher and tougher to get talent these days. So these are the three, I think, main factors around the repivoting towards employee experience.
So, you've explained there, Sherif, some really important reasons why boardrooms are taking this seriously and the impact that technology can have on improving productivity. But there's a lot of challenges that this presents. A lot of organisations simply aren't in that position at the moment. What are the big challenges that organisations face in trying to tackle some of the gaps that you explained there?
Yeah, there are a few of those. The first one is the generational diversity. Today, for the first time, there are really 4 generations in the workplace. Soon enough, it's going to be 5. And each of these generations' expectations and definitions of what a great employee experience is varied. So it's how do you cater for different requirements and different definitions of a great user experience. The second one is what you referred to in your introduction, the gap between consumer IT and enterprise IT. And customers want that ease of use. They want that if it's one button and I get what I get done. There is an app for everything. With your iPhone or whatever device, you log in with your Face ID and then you have access to everything in your environment. And that's not the same experience that customers get in the enterprise. And the third thing is what I call now digital distraction. So research shows that on average, an employee needs to interact with 35 different applications to get their work done. Today, there are also people get interrupted about 1,000 times in their work every day, kind of whether that's emails, WhatsApp, phone calls. Quickly, I want information about this deal or I want this report. And the research also shows that when you get interrupted at work in the middle of something that you were productive in, it takes you about 20 minutes to get back to that. And last, the research also shows that most employees now spend 20% of their time searching for information. That's 1 day a week that you are just searching for information. So all of these things are the things that are driving that employee disengagement, the lack of productivity, and these are the things that companies must tackle. And that's why, as part of the employee experience focus, the focus on the digital workplace, as it's called, has become a major focus for most organizations.
Now, I can certainly recognise what you said there about being interrupted 1,000 times a day. I'm sure many people will acknowledge that. Acknowledge that very much so. But that's a real problem for organisations, isn't it? And it's going to take some pretty fundamental change within the way organisations operate to overcome some of those challenges. What do organisations need to do differently?
I think the first thing that every organization needs to realize is that employee experience is not something that you can outsource to a certain department. It's not the chief people officer on their own or the chief information officer on their own or the chief digital officer. It really has to become a focus across the entire leadership of an organization, because employee experience really depends on three things. The first one is organizational culture. And obviously that comes from leadership, and it's kind of people want to work in a culture that values the same values that they do, kind of where they feel that they can be authentic and etc. The second element is around the physical work environment, which is also important. People now and particularly the younger generations want an environment that encourages collaboration, that kind of looks more like a Starbucks than the traditional offices in the past. But also within that, there's the whole notion of enabling flexible work, flexible time. I can do my work from anywhere. Etc. So that's important. The third element comes to technology. It's back to this. What is the technology that I use? How do the tools do they enable me to really be more productive, or do they distract me? And so what we call the digital workplace is the third element. So what organizations need to do is really build plans around each of these three.
You rightly say there that cultural and organisational issues are obviously a big part of this, but your third point there is about getting the technology right, and at the end of the day, IT departments are going to have to deliver and support the sort of technology to enable that organisational change. What do IT departments need to do to meet these challenges? What do they need to be doing to help deliver a better experience for employees?
I think like the CIOs in partnership with the rest of the organization have to realize that they need to look at technology from a different angle. They need to look at technology from how do I enable my employees to get the tasks that they need to get done in the most efficient way. And then how do I make work technology akin to consumer technology? So the first things that people need to do is kind of how do I help my employees organize their work in a better way? How do I make sure that they don't have to worry about what type of application it is, where does it reside? I get in once, I sign in once, and I have access to everything that I need. The second thing, once that organized kind of work happens, is how do I guide my employee through kind of their workday. So instead of just saying, here is a list of applications and here's a list of data that you can go to, how do I surface to them what is most important to them? So kind of akin to a social media feed where I am seeing what's relevant to me. So here are the tasks that you need to do. Here are the approvals that you need to do. Or here is the information that might be most interesting to you. So I guide you away from that distraction and that 20% that you are spending searching for information. And the third step is really around how do I automate as much of the routine tasks for you as possible. It's interesting that in the last few years, we've really taken information workers and transformed them into task workers. I don't know about you, I spend a lot of my day, approving PTO, approving expenses, kind of all of these things that really should be just automated. And so kind of organizations and IT organizations analyzing these repetitive workflows and using machine learning and AI kind of to automate these processes is really kind of would be a significant step forward. So reorganize your digital workplace to make it look like social media, like what people are used to, make it inviting, making people think I go to one place, I get all of my work done, and instead of seeing icons and data, I am seeing tasks, I am seeing information that's relevant to me, I am able to collaborate with others right on the spot. These are the things that are going to be critical in the journey of the part that IT needs to play in the bigger employee experience play.
So you've painted a picture there, Sherif, of what's possible with the technologies that are available today, and there's a lot more that can be done as things stand. But we all know there's a lot more change to come. So let's just imagine the future a little bit. Try and explain to us what you think the workplace is going to look like in 30 years' time, in 2050, say, to give us a feel for what it's going to be like for us as employees then compared to now.
Gosh, 2050, that's like 31 years from now. And kind of let's remember, 31 years ago, the internet as we know it today didn't even exist. So really predicting the future is becoming much, much, much more difficult because innovation is happening at a much faster speed and the adoption of technology is also happening at a much faster speed. There are a few things, of course, however, that I think we can talk in certainty about. One of them is kind of AI and machine learning is going to have a significant impact on the workplace. The OECD predicts that 14% of the jobs of today are going to be fully automated by technology, and another 32% are going to be radically transformed by technology. So that's one thing that is for certain. The other side that's for certain is there are going to be jobs 30 years from now that do not exist today. I think a lot of people talk about automation replacing jobs, but many people forget that in the last 10 years, we have job categories that did not exist because of technology. If you think about, mobile app developer, a social media manager, data scientist, kind of all of these types of roles, driverless car engineer, all of these are roles that didn't exist 10 years ago. So 30 years from now, there are going to be a lot more job categories that do not exist today that created by technology. But the common theme really is going to be that work is not going to become a place anymore. It's going to be a set of activities and tasks that people will be able to do anytime, anywhere, and kind of collaborate on them significantly. I'll give you an example. Already today, my nephew is an architect. He lives in Egypt. And 50% of his time he spends working for an architecture firm where he really owns a project from end to end, etc. The other 50%, he's working on projects in Latin America and the US and Europe, etc., all online, where really he's not working on a full project. He's taking a small task, design the bathroom for us in this place, or work on the energy consumption piece of that design. And that's going to be what's going to happen more and more in the future. It's going to be how people come together, collaborate. The definition of full-time work is going to be different. One thing is for certain as well, is that employees and people are going to continue to be the main linkage point between companies and their products and services and their customers. So I would say the best thing anyone can do to ensure they are future-proof is to continue to invest in a diverse, engaged, motivated, excited workforce and continue to focus on their development and learning and create a continuous learning culture. People will continue to be essential and the center of everything that every company does.
Absolutely. A lot of exciting changes to come, but some very clear things that people can do now to improve their employee experience. Sherif Seddik, thank you for sharing some of your experiences and thoughts about how technology can improve the work environment for all of us. That's all we've got time for on this video. Hopefully you've been able to take away some ideas and tips to help you to use technology better to improve employee engagement in your organisation. Thanks for watching.